But let's get the read from Ohio Republican Congressman Bill Johnson. He met with the president yesterday and says that there are ways of settling this. So, Congressman, first of all, very good to have you.
Good to be with you, Neil. Thanks for having me.
You've heard the latest, sir, on Nancy Pelosi saying, about that State of the Union speech. Maybe you don't give it, or if you write it and mail it to us. What did you make of that?
Well, first of all, Article 2, Section 3, Clause 1 doesn't even mention the Speaker of the House. It's the president that has the responsibility to update the nation on the State of the Union.
But he can do so via writing it or delivering it. We didn't have, cable news back then.
He absolutely can. And I suggested that maybe Leader McConnell should invite him to come and do it at the Senate or at the Capitol Visitor Center, where we can put both chambers in the same place. He does not need Nancy Pelosi's permission to do the State of the Union.
All right. It doesn't have to be in the House in that case. She
No,
might
it
have
does
power
not.
to do it in the House.
No.
When you met with the president, Congressman, I don't want you to, compromise, conversations. Was it his sense that he would still give a speech?
I think the president wants to take the message to the American people, and I think he stands ready to do that. And he made it very clear. That was a productive meeting yesterday. The president made it very clear.
Who showed up at the meeting?
Well, there was a number of Republicans and Democrats that want to try and solve this problem. And I was encouraged that the president is willing to look at a wide range of ideas on the table, but it starts with the willingness of Nancy Pelosi to talk about border security. That's step number one. We've got to have border security, and I believe the president is right in that assertion.
All right. Now, you talk about the measures the president has considered that have gone off his original talking point. It's the idea that it didn't have to be a wall per se, that, you could cover the 2,000 plus miles, not with brick and mortar. You could do slats. You could do other high technologies. He even backed off the price tag originally, the $5.6 billion, which would really just be a continued down payment on something that's going to cost in the vicinity of 25 to 30 billion. But is it your sense that he settled on a figure of 2.5 to 3? What?
I didn't hear a figure yesterday that the president settled on, but I can tell you that he's only talking about 234 miles of the border that he wants to secure with the funding that he's asking for. It's not the entire nearly 2,000 miles of border with Mexico. And when you consider the criminal element, the drugs, I mean, you've heard all of that before. I don't need to repeat it. There's a reason why this is a national security imperative. Just ask the families that are losing loved ones every day to the heroin that's coming across our border.
Did the president indicate he's ready to pull the trigger on declaring a national emergency?
That never even came up yesterday, as I recall. No.
Do you think he should?
Well, I think the president has got that option, and I think his number one priority should be protecting the safety and security of the American people, and he should consider all options. Look, here's where I come down on this. I was born and raised in the 60s and 70s, and I loved how Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill solved these problems. They did it over a bottle of Irish whiskey and cigars watching cowboy movies at the White House.
It doesn't sound that bad to me. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that's the way I think this gets settled out of the camera. When the drama subsides, that's how these kinds of deals are resolved. I think the president would be willing to do that.
I'll even split on the bottle of whiskey. How's that? All right.
I'll do that.
Congressman, very good seeing you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.